Shadow of the Torturer was published in 1980 and written by Gene Wolfe. It's the first in a 4-volume series called Book of the New Sun. Often hailed as one of the best sci-fi novels ever written, it ranks right up there with other masterpieces such as Dune and Hyperion. It also has a reputation for being a dense and challenging read, some even comparing the difficulty to that of Malazan Book of the Fallen, because of course everything hard to read is pretty much Malazan. The story itself is fairly straightforward and takes place in a far future, where the sun is red and the moon is green, on a planet Earth that's now spelled U-R-T-H. Our main protagonist, a young man named Severian, who was raised in a torturer's guild, falls in love with one of the prisoners set to be tortured, a woman named Thekla. Severian ends up disobeying guild rules and gets expelled for trying to help her. Rather than being executed for his crimes, Severian is exiled from the guild and given a special sword named Terminus X from his mentor. He is then sent off to a distant town that's in need of an executioner. Along the way, he encounters various characters that join him on his journey. On the surface, Shadow of the Torturer reads very much like your standard sword and sorcery tale, with all your usual tropes and medieval-like environments. You may start to wonder why this book is even classified as sci-fi, but as you progress further along the story, you'll start finding little Easter eggs of our current and future civilizations, such as advanced technology, architecture, and animal species that may have been bioengineered. Gene Wolfe's method of writing skillfully hides these little morsels of information in a way that comes off as cryptic and mysterious. A section in the book's appendix entitled A Note on Translation further explains his reasoning for this. In rendering this book originally composed in a tongue that has not yet achieved existence into English, I might easily have saved myself a great deal of labor by having recourse to invented terms. In no case have I done so. Thus, in many instances, I have been forced to replace yet undiscovered concepts by their closest 20th century equivalents, such as words as peltast, androgen, and exultant are substitutions of this kind and are intended to be suggestive rather than definitive. Metal is usually, but not always, employed to designate a substance of the sort the word suggests to contemporary minds. When the manuscript makes reference to animal species resulting from biogenetic manipulation or the importation of extrasolar breeding stock, the name of a similar extinct species has been freely substituted. So in a nutshell, Gene Wolfe somehow translated a manuscript that came from the far future. This could explain why some readers have a difficult time deciphering his method of storytelling. Much of what actually occurred may have been lost in the author's translation. In a way, this is comparable to how stories from ancient texts often get lost in translation as they pass through different hands over thousands of years. This story is sort of that in reverse, which in itself is unique and compelling. Since Shadow of the Torturer was written as a memoir, it's told from the point of view of Severian, who comes off as an unreliable narrator, mainly because you'll start spotting inconsistencies with many of the things he claims, such as having a perfect memory. It makes you question if this tale is a form of propaganda or a figment of his imagination. The hardcover edition I read was only 274 pages. Despite it being a very short novel with a basic plot, I do not recommend flying through it in a day or two. It's the type of story that needs to be read slowly and carefully in order to absorb the layers and details within the world building. Shadow of the Torturer's reputation of being a challenging read is understandable. I personally didn't think it was all that difficult. I actually found it similar to Michael Moorcock's Elric saga, mixed in with the philosophy and themes comparable to Frank Herbert's Dune. It's the type of book that will challenge your perceptions more than it does your reading level. It's an incredibly immersive experience that is testament to Gene Wolfe's literary genius. Fun fact, along with being a well-respected sci-fi writer, Gene Wolfe was also a mechanical engineer who helped develop the machinery used to make Pringles potato chips. Could this be the portrait of the legend himself? I give Gene Wolfe's Shadow of the Torturer an easy 5 out of 5 bookmarks. If you enjoyed this content, please be sure to hit that like and subscribe, and I will catch you guys on the next page.